Jeffrey, I thought it'd be easier to film kind of some of the process and so forth because there's definitely a lot of ad-libbing, so here we go. Hopefully it works out for you. First, is we're going to do it in 3 stages. 1, the ingredients. 2, kind of the preparation, some little techniques. 3, and then putting it all together. So let's just kind of go through here. Some of these are essential, not all, but let's talk about them. The mandolin. This one's pretty cheap. I'm going to show you an alternative technique that you can shred this stuff, but it's essential for shredding the stuff down into good slaw-like bites. If you do it by hand, you're going to go batty. It's crazy. A good serrated knife, it's just a lot easier to cut lettuce and so forth, and a good chef's knife. There you go. Alright, Savoy cabbage. The key to this one, it's definitely it's not as dense. The other one can be really, really rough, and the difference when you're at the grocery, look for Savoy cabbage, notice the little curls, it gives a little bit, it's not as dense. The other one literally will feel like you're knocking on somebody's skull. I think it's just called green cabbage. It will work, but it's just not as tender. That's probably the best way to describe it, not as tender. Just a bag of starter slaw. It doesn't have to be any particular brand. The starter slaw, it says broccoli slaw. I've noticed it's got little carrots and so forth. Don't mess around with this. I definitely would use this and just, one bag. Quickly, by the way, in terms of ingredients and things you see here, this is pretty much, I would say safely, 20 people. 20 people. 2 things of corn. Definitely use fresh corn. Don't use frozen or canned for sure. Again, the mandolin, when I show you the prep, it's easy for that. You can use a knife as well. Another head of broccoli. Again, use fresh, and just, it usually comes like this. If you need to kind of assemble it, if they're just little florets, just try to, get a bunch that'll fit in your hand. 2 jalapenos, we'll get into that. Nice sweet onion. Maui Vidalia is the easiest to find around here. 1 onion. I kind of forgot, luckily I had this laying around. Purple onion is probably preferred, but this one we're going to use 1.5 because I think a little bit more spice is better anyway, so purple onion. Okay, right here. The reason I showed all this is when we get into the prep, the key to this recipe, in my opinion, is the ability, be a little fearless. Go for it. I mean, I think the traditional coleslaw right here. I think it's Marie's. There's T. Marzetti is another brand. But basically the key is you want to use, it's the ratio, and this arguably, let's look in the camera here. The key to this is the ratio of any cream base to your vinegar. If you're doing this with pulled pork, ribs, brisket, the grease, you want to cut that grease with more vinegar base. We don't want a milky or real creamy base slaw. So I just wanted any favorite salad dressing, blue cheese. I noticed this one is Asiago peppercorn. This is traditional. This is kind of more like this is basically a Geneva, kind of a Caesary dressing. Anything will work, but the key when I show you kind of putting it all together is that ratio of cream to vinegar. Notice we're going to use fresh jalapenos in this one. The jarred are great because they're also already laced in vinegar. So if you want to go with that flavor, go for it. We're going to use fresh today. And pepperoncinis are great in it as well. We're not going to use those, but again, be fearless, experiment with it. Apple cider vinegar, just Publix brand. I mean, nothing, this is vinegar for crying out loud. Use whatever you want. Secret ingredient for me, again, you can use whatever spices, Old Bay. I think it rounds it out nicely. And then any salt and pepper to taste. I'll show you that when we're putting it all together. I think I covered all the ingredients. The other thing, huge mixing bowl would be nice. You can use a huge bake pan, whatever. Restaurant Supply, if you want to look at these, they're literally cheap as all get out. Any of those Asian restaurant supply places are great for all this kind of stuff. And I think we're good. Are we good?